Tina Turner, you have now completed your album Break Every Rule. Are you exhausted, or do you find your batteries recharged?
Recharged. Totally recharged. This one wasn't strenuous for me. I've been singing all my life, so you don't run into a problem vocally, really, unless you're dealing with something that you're not accustomed to, and I can't say that any of these songs sort of lent itself in that direction. I enjoyed singing them. A few times, having to have worked in Paris, it was a bit awkward for the engineers, but aside from that, I left the studio every night really flying, feeling like I'd done a good vocal.
Of course, we have to say, though you did the vocals in Paris, the tracks were laid down in England, where you had the great comeback of Private Dancer. What is the chemistry going there?
Of course, I've been asked so many times. I have to answer honestly. I do believe in astrology, and I also know from astrology that there are certain places in the world that holds energy for certain people. And it's got to be London for me. Years ago, it started with Rivers Deep Mountains High, and now it started much later. That was my first hit here. And then later on, it's my solo career is actually starting here. So it's I do feel very strongly that English people are connected with black music, and it's something about me, something there that they like. Obviously, you can't really put your finger on it. If I'd lived here all my life, I'd be able to give you a perfect answer on it, but I'm still sort of searching for myself.
Well, clearly they do relate to it because they have turned out in force to support you on this album.
Yes.
Of course, so many of the great musicians like Phil Collins is here, Steve Winwood, of course, Mark Knopfler helped produce a couple of tracks.
Yes.
One of which is his own song, and another is Paul Brady. Now, perhaps we should tell people who Paul Brady is.
Why don't we? And I just really can't wait until he makes himself known. I'm really very happy to promote him because he's such a great writer and a fantastic singer. I said to Mark that I felt that he had not been produced properly, and I think that's what's holding him back. Steel Claw on the past album was written by and recorded by Brady, and he's had albums that went well here in England, but not in America yet.
Well, this one is Paradise Is Here. Chosen by you or Mark?
Me. He came, actually how it came about is that I met him after doing Steel Claw, and I said, how is that are you political minded? I said to him. He said, no. He said, I happened to have been in that surrounding at the time, and I just wrote that song, and I said how much I loved it and all. And we didn't even talk about him doing a song for this album. So Roger went to see his performance. I wasn't able to because I was doing some work. And then he said, I think I have a song for Tina's album. So he came the next day because he was leaving for tour, and he sat down and just did a rough demo. He had gotten up that morning. You could hear him even coughing, clearing his throat. And I went, oh, it was so incredible because that song really can fit a lot of women. Just basically saying, you think that your life and all of what is wonderful is outside of here, but it's right here at home. Paradise is right here. You tell me how many women can't relate to that. And actually, when Mark was producing it, he said that obviously that Paul must have written about his wife because it sounds very much like something that he has dealt with. And Mark was really trying to get that conversation going between man and woman there in the production. Really incredible.
Lovely lines. The future is this moment and not someplace out there.
Yes. This is just, that's why I'm really hoping that people will sit down and listen to the words because there's such wonderful messages here, not deliberate even, but just honest spoken words that can sort of relate to lives, no matter the age.
Now, you didn't hurry this time. Last time, Private Dancer, you managed to get together in about a fortnight.
We had no choice. That one was entrapment, but came out so positive that it was unbelievable. I think the album is just beginning to softly slide out of the charts in America. I had a surprising hit. Actually, I'm going to tell you something. I think you cannot keep a hit down. If it's a B-side and it's a hit, it's going to happen. Let's Stay Together became a hit record, forced itself on the people because it was a hit through whatever magic forces. I was stuck with a hit record, no producer, and barely a record company because Roger actually hadn't found a company that was really interested or we had just signed, and with problems with that, And the record seeped itself into America, an import hit. And they started playing on a black radio station, and then it made crossover, and actually I think it helped promote the sales of the album. And so here I was, no producer, no songs, nothing. And Roger felt, thank goodness for Roger at that point because he's like a warrior, manager. he had to get this happening at that point. So he found all these people. I didn't know them. Actually, he made that album a reality. And I was just following the courses of saying, I hate the song, I like that one, no, I won't do it. And he's like, come and do it. That's what it was really like. It was really like a movie. If a movie is done in my life, I really want to make that very realistic, like how that was really done. It was like, I wasn't forced to do anything, but it was like really sharing, really a manager and artist working together.
Yet this time you must have had the self-confidence not to hurry. It's been more than 2 years. A lot of people would have been tempted to get one out there straight away. How did you have the patience?
Well, I tell you, I do play with life a lot, and I'll mention Roger a lot here because, it's almost like right and left arm or left and right. I felt that the audience should wait. I mean, the long wait from my present album, the past album, My Private Dancer, was really very magical, and the people waited for it. And plus, my album hadn't come out of the charts yet. It was still in the charts in America. I felt, well, let's just wait and see how long, Roger. You know what I mean? Because you come out with something else, it's going to immediately drop, right? And Roger's like that, too. So he felt, okay, let's see what we can do here, And plus, this one wasn't ready yet. I mean, I needed a bit of a rest. I needed to be out of the studio for a while. I needed to be off stage for a while. I needed a rest, and I felt the public would wait. And that was the truth about the whole thing. It was the mystery of how long my album would stay and the fact that I needed a break.
And, of course, you did also have the benefit of the 2 songs from the film,
Yes.
of Beyond Thunderdome.
Right.
And now I know you wanted to play a kind of inhuman character, such as you'd seen Grace Jones play.
Always.
Is it true you turned down a role in The Color Purple, which was more of a sort of standard role?
Yeah, serious standard. I'm not ready for serious standard yet. Because I feel that I need to learn the skill of working the camera before I do a role like that. But why I didn't take that role, it was too close to the life that I had led with my ex-husband, a life that I knew already from growing up as a black girl. I think acting is something, for me, that I need to step outside of myself. I don't think any of those people were actually beaten and lived back through picking cotton and all of that kind of stuff. That's why they could play with the fantasy of doing that. It would have been real for me. I would have been depressed. I wouldn't have been happy. And I don't think I would have done my best because it would have been too touching for me. It's not what I want to do in acting, I need to enjoy what I'm doing, and I need to be a bit more adventurous.
So did you enjoy Mad Max?
Oh, how can I even tell you? I think my adrenaline is still sort of flowing when I even talk about it. I got into a different world there. It's something that's first priority for me because I've been singing all my life, so just another album. Okay. I wanted to act. I've always acted out movies for my parents. So that was what I wanted to do. And when I went there, I went without management, without assistant. I became involved with movie people. There's so many creative people in Australia, young creative people. They made all the sets, and they actually helped produce all of what's involved. It's very much the same involvement in movies as is with setting up a road crew going for a tour for a singer. But movie, different, talking, the camera, the magic of that thing, standing there taking a picture of what you're doing and knowing that you're going to see it back, mastering it. That challenge for me.
Of course, then you discover what fans discover when they meet their pop star heroes, which is that movie people are just humans after all.
Yes, they are. They create. They have problems getting the second album. When somebody else mess up everything, have to start all over again. So that's the hard part about it, and the hours. But yeah, real people. But the fantasy movie is fantasy, and that is what I touched upon, making all of that a fantasy. And it became that for me as well. After each shoot, we would go in for the after shots, as they call the rushes, and I'd look at what I'd done, and which helped me to become better. But I love it. That's what I want to do. It's hard work, but it's hard to work differently. With an album, I got to go and now promote this, and I got to perform for my audience. When you perform with a movie, you're done with it. You promote it, and you're finished. So that's kind of where I want to go right now. For a number of reasons, I'm becoming older. I've actually mastered my singing career, I think, even with this album, has definitely made the complete statement. So I can really move now into that other direction.
Do you get scripts?
Yes. But, see, again, they haven't been what I want. I still want to, you see, I'm still very child-minded, so to speak, as the English would say. I watch a lot of movies like what Grace Jones is doing and what Entity was, and Matt Max and the part I played as Entity, and still a lot of the vampire stuff. Not so much the vampire stuff, but a lot of the warrior stuff now, and the half man, half human things. I like that kind of stuff. You see, it's futuristic. It's unnatural. I want to do unnatural stuff for a while, and then once I get it out of my system, then I can say, all right, I can stand still now and be an adult, you know. But all of that is steaming from that rock and roll blood that's still in there too, you know.
Well, you did have 2 singles from the Mad Max soundtrack. The one which wasn't as big a hit was One of the Living, which I thought was better as an album track than a single. Why was it remixed the way it was, or do you know?
Okay, the One of the Living was also my favorite as well. I think Holly Knight did a fantastic job in actually doing what really did suit the movie and what was actually going on. There was a lot of controversy about that because of George Miller not being as connected with the music business as he is, and was on his own for the first time without his assistant, which was killed in I think a helicopter accident. So he was still searching, and you know he had not put total confidence in Roger yet to know that Roger knew what he was talking about. So there was a bit of chaotic things going on between the business and management and movie producers and all directors and all of that with that.
Well, of course, then you did have the smash, We Don't Need Another Hero.
Yes.
And that was supplied to you by Terry Britton and Graham Lyle, who had done What's Love Got to Do with It.
Right.
Now, what is the Ripple connection?
Terry in earlier days of his was, before he became married and had a family, was a hippie. I respect hippies. There are many different types. Most of the time they are very creative because they have all of that time and space to really create and to. I think he's coming from another place with his music. I think that connection of all of that is because I was of that era as well. Terry is also a fan from way back when he was in Australia. He loved Nutbush, and you know, Nutbush City Limits was a hit in Australia 3 times for me. So that was a connection there. So he was really excited about meeting me, and I had to sort of settle into Terry's music because it was unusual. It still is unusual. It sounds nothing like anything that's on the market. And it shows really definite good qualities, vocal qualities on my part, to really show that singing side, you know.
Well, you've given Terry and Graham a whole side of the new album, Break Every Rule.
They deserve it.
One of the songs sounds familiar, like those 2 monster hits, 2 People, and as I started hearing it and thinking, well, this does sound like the other 2 a bit, I realized, what is it? It's that percussion. And I thought, is it the man who programs it? And I look at the credits, which are now before me for the first time, and I see it's somebody called Bruno.
But wait. Bruno is my drummer, which has been my drummer for about nearly 4 years. Terry, that's Terry. Because what Terry does is he does it with that electric machine, and then whoever the drummer is come in to sort of copy that sound to make it a realistic, real drum sound, because Terry don't want to use those sounds, you know, for his music. But all of that, believe me, is Terry. It's just and how he, even with Phil, that did some drum work here, he managed to get Phil to even copy some of that. Was very difficult because Phil kept saying, yes, but now do you want my touch or do you want? And Terry said, Terry, by the time you finish communicating, you're not going to have any hair, because his little nervous twitches, he tugs on his hair a little bit, right? And very subtly and very, very kindly, he sort of said to Phil in a way, well, actually what I want, you know, is what's here, because this is what makes the song work, you know. Terry has his own formula, and that's what makes him.
Well, I have to say that on the song Typical Male, which I gather is chosen as a single, Phil Collins is present, but it doesn't sound like a track from No Jacket Required, shall we say.
No, it doesn't. He was very giving and very funny. And, of course, he had us both laughing because we were trying to decide, you know, what do you want and what you... That was another one where Terry was saying, you know, we really needed to stick very close to, like, what was there. And there was a lot of laughter. And when Phil came in, he said to Terry, you're right. You know, that's what it was needed, you know.
Well, I said this has been chosen as a single, Typical Male. 2 People sounds to me like a likely single. Who is it in your case who actually does decide?
Roger. My business arrangement with Roger is that he's the manager, I'm the artist. I perform. Now, he and I will fight when it comes to, like, stage, because I'm a performer, and I don't like for someone to play with what I know about that. But I don't know this end of it as well as Roger. And earlier in life, that was basically Ike's position, so to speak. And so As long as what I performed is on the album, I don't care what he chooses. It's between he and the record company. That's his job.
Well, as long as we said that, then let's let you have a choice here before we continue the discussion of the Britton Lyle side. What is your personal favorite of the album?
Roger's gonna kill me. And because Terry and Graham wrote this was the very last one they wrote for me because I wanted a close to one on the edge. And what you see is what you get. But it's me. I love all of them. But that one is the one that I find I listen to the most.
Well, now I know why. When I came in and said that was my favorite, you started laughing hysterically.
That's right. I don't know. It's another version of Graham and Terry. It's just another version of their type of. It was almost like what they did with Respect and stuff. I mean, it's just a mystery now to see what it will do, and it doesn't matter that much what it will because there are many other hits that I know is going to be a hit here, so we're safe there. But at least I got a chance to have something.
And it is you coming over. For example, that line, "Some guys got lips that you can't help kissing."
Mwah, mwah, mwah. It's a fun song. You can sort of really visualize the visual performer because I'm such a visual performer, so you can sort of really touch upon actually seeing me do that song. Because actually that one was written from my live performances. And Terry, when he does videos for me now, he stands like me and he does that like, and we laugh about it because that he becomes Tina now when he makes demos for me. So we can play with it, It's fun. It's really fun working with him now. We've really locked in.
How is it, speaking about the stage and the visual performance that you do give, now that you obviously are playing on a much larger scale, how do you get that impact over to the fans who may be an eighth of a mile away?
Well, I do have to say that the visual side of me really helped because you're moving about the stage. The screens help a lot. You need to see expressions. You need to see my facial expressions because as well as a singer and dancer, I really am an actress. And each song becomes an act and becomes a character within itself. So a lot of people sort of really sort of complained about the screen. I asked Roger for the screen. I wanted the people in the back and the very top to be able to see me. I know it's like television, like watching television, but you can easily look up on the stage and see that I'm there. I think if it had been a census from a vote of coming from like the people, they would have said right on for the screen. But a lot of writers said something like, oh, well, it made you feel like you were watching MTV. But think about the people, and that I look like this little dot down there. Thank goodness I wore white or something so that at least they could see this little meteor bumping about on the stage. I want them to see what I'm doing. Otherwise, it's all lost.
Right. So you don't mind using the screens at all?
I have to. I actually have to because, plus, it works for me. I don't have to work quite as hard when they see what I'm doing and they get the message of the performance.
We have to mention Live Aid because, after all, that was the biggest gig of all time.
Oh, wasn't it?
And it's, I think, probably the peak of all of us who were broadcasting it in our careers. How about for you as an artist?
The immediate invitation for it, I became really quite thrilled because I had donated money to, there's a charity organization in America where you can send money. I just don't have it on my tongue, at least the name of it now. But I had already started contributing to it before the performance of the monthly giving. And so when I was asked to do it, it was exciting for two reasons, because I had always liked the Michael Jackson and Mick Jagger tune it. And I still look forward to doing actually a duet with Mick, and something really raunchy, And so Mick rang and said, I'd like to do a song with Tina. Well, we'd been asked, and we didn't know exactly where we were going to take the band in or what we were going to do. Or I know I would have done What's Love if I had taken my band in. But after Mick rang, we decided, well, I'll just do a duet with Mick, because Mick was going to use another band. And then I became really very excited because I got a chance to do my favorite song and with one of my favorite artists, and to be a part of that.
How was the feeling backstage there? Of course, here it was very communal. How about in Philadelphia?
Very communal as well. Everyone was together. There were, of course, caravans for the artist to dress, and a lot of press. But a lot of communication. I mean, it was a buzz going on of everybody being happy to be there. No egos. The egos went totally out the window. Geldof said that he ran into like a few, just a few minor things. But it was such a reunion of all the people coming together, being happy to see each other and a part of being there and making a cause for that. Fantastic day. Wonderful day. And to stand there and see, I felt like I was in Rome and, in the days of Christ. What is that building? The
Colosseum.
Colosseum. I felt that rush from the people and what was going on there.
Actually, we mentioned Live Aid. Patti LaBelle was there as well. And I know you've always said that you prefer rock to blues or rhythm and blues. And obviously, you are suited for it in a way that some of your other peers, like Patti LaBelle or Dionne Warwick, are not. Why is it, I wonder?
I think I'm a bit naughtier than they are. I think my spirituality and my godness inside of me comes more out of being a good person and cleansing my inside so that I do unto others as I have them do unto me. But in the meantime, I have to have fun with my life. It's all within me. I don't have to express it otherwise. It becomes a part of you once you practice a philosophy or a religion long enough. I like being naughty. I like playing. How do you call it? You know how sometimes it's another part of your personality. Sometimes I see myself as alter ego. Yeah, it's an altered state for me when I become my stage person. It's so totally removed from the other two people that I am, the mother and then the mother, the woman, and then another part where I would say would be the actress or whatever. I need to laugh and jump and play around and give the people all that is a part of life as well, which is sex, laughter, tears, all of the elements of life, all of the emotions of life, everything that is involved with the creation of life is in a performance for me. That's my attitude about it. I don't like to get too serious and mixing it with other emotions, really.
And yet I must say, Tina, that even though you don't prefer to sing rhythm and blues, when you do, it's a marvelous effect. I mean, Let's Stay Together, just as good as the Al Green. And I have to say that on Afterglow, there is a little touch of the Al Green. Would you admit?
Yes, I am and was back then a fan of Al Green's. Covered a lot of his tunes, Ike and I did. There was a lot of overtones and Al Green's. But again, the difference in Al and myself is that he was always very, I don't know the proper way of putting this, but it's almost like singing in church. And I took the same emotions and put a different mental approach to both and all of his. Sam Cooke did the same kind of thing. He didn't think, I don't think that much of like church and God. He thought about, it was the same emotions of like what you get in a church and thinking about God and all that. But he would see a girl dancing in a skirt and a sweater, and he could feel that same emotion. Because again, it's all a part of the life. Now, Al Green is very, let's say, religious. So am I. I practice religiously, but I enjoy life as well. So I like to take a lot of his emotions and a lot of his phrases and vocal textures in some things and apply it to a lot of my songs because I happen to like it.
Well, your history, Tina, as you say, coming out now, perfect for a film, I would think, but would it be the kind of film you'd like to make?
I won't make it because, again, I've lived it already. I don't need to play that part again. I think it'll take someone that's interested in being that. I don't know if I'll have a choice in the matter, but I'd like to meet the woman or the girl because she would need to know the innocence in Tina Turner, the strengths, all the three people in order to really play the part. That's my attitude about however it's produced. I wouldn't have any arguments with who produces it or how it's done, direct rather. But I'd really like to have a bit of time with the actress.
Now, as you leave this studio, I would imagine that you'll be undergoing another round of interviews to promote this and a tour. Is it something you look forward to find a way of explaining yourself, or is it something you think, oh, not again?
Do you know what I call interviews and journalists? It's like going to court. It's constant interrogation. Because sometimes it's not accepted what you say. People want to ask you why, and they want to question you. It's not enough just to speak it and tell it 2, 3, 4, 500 times. It's almost you have to go so much in depth with your life and to talk about yourself for hours. It is so boring to talk about yourself for hours. 15 minutes, 20 minutes, okay. But people want to know more. People are so selfish with needing to know. But like a woman in Pompeii said recently, I was touring, and the people found that it was me, and they started clamoring for autographs. And I went, she says, well, lady, it is what you asked for. So that's my attitude about it. When I really get fed up with it, and I say, yes, but doesn't it go along with the property? And the answer is yes.
Well, thank you for going along with the property. We've enjoyed it, and congratulations on a good album.
Thank you very much.
On Afterglow, you have Steve Winwood present on synthesizer. Who brought him along?
That was a wonderful surprise. A lot of this album sort of got into pleasing Terry as well as myself. These were all heroes of Terry. Terry's and Roger said, well, you know, and Terry says, oh, Christ, wouldn't it be great for this song to have something like, Winwood, even though Terry has a great keyboard player, and it's not as if Terry's assistant there couldn't have copied or came as close, and you would have felt the same. But it's nothing like actually having Winwood there, right? Roger got Winwood. So, we were all thrilled. I went, you're kidding. I mean, it's obviously, when you first hear it, you go, oh, that sounds really good. What is that? Because you can't really put your finger on Winwood and Tina Turner's album. And then all of a sudden, you're going to scan through there, and you're going to go, Christ, you know? It's perfect for Afterglow, too. I mean, it's just so apropos for musicians and singers. Are we on the buses? Are we on the airplanes traveling, and the lights go out and the big trucks are honking up and really loading up and getting out? That's what it's really like. Terry just really captured it.
And do you like Steve Winwood's new song, Higher Love?
I most certainly do. I wish that on his video I could have gotten a bit more of him singing it. It's a bit busy with a lot of the dancers around and all of the business going on. You get very little of him. I need sometimes to see that singer right there on those videos singing it to the people. You know, that's what I miss a little bit, because he's just so fantastic. But it's enough that I have the album to play, so I won't be that selfish.
There's one more song by Terry Britton and Graham Lyle that we haven't mentioned yet. Now, that's Till the Right Man Comes Along. Now, we have to wonder, of course, if this is something that you sympathize with. Baby, you're the best thing in my life. But you're the best bet here tonight,
Isn't that naughty? Oh, I didn't even write it. This is Terry. These guys just sort of know. Well, from the very beginning, that was written for Carly Simon. And we worked on this way, way long time ago, and we felt, it's not quite right, Terry. You need to sort of change this or change that. And we sort of forgot about it because Roger didn't feel it was right, and he didn't feel, So Terry said, Roger, believe me, I know what's in my head, and I know we can make this song a reality. So we had almost kind of forgotten it. So he came to my house in L.A., and we sat down, and we played this, and all of a sudden it sort of came to life, and I said something like, Terry, didn't we work on this a little bit? And so then he jokingly said, yeah, this is the one that you called for Carly Simon, right? So in other words, you might, or some of the fans of Carly's might sort of get that country and western sort of something going on in there. But I like the words, because in America, women have a tendency to talk about a Mr. Right or so forth. I think you might have heard Donna Summer sing about that or something. And it's just a slang about when the right man comes along or whatever. I think it's so perfect, because I haven't been on the arm of a man throughout my career, because first of all, people forget that I was married for 16 years, and it's not something that I'd have to rush into because I've experienced it already. But you sort of forget, because you think I'm going to fall right into the sort of old cliche that most stars do, from one man to the other or whatever it is. Well, it's just not my style, because it's my style. But this song is just great because it's very me. It's okay, it's fine, everything's all right, but it's not it, so to speak, So it's the underline of naughtiness in all of these songs that I really do like.
Well, if we can mention something which is major, which is about your life, and that is the book you've been doing with Kurt Loder of Rolling Stone, your autobiography, I, Tina. Is it ready?
It's ready, like the album. Coming out the same time. It's going to be very hard for me because, when you put things to rest, I'm very good at putting the past. I don't dwell on things. If I have an argument, once I'm finished with it, or if I have a discussion that's heated, it's done. Discussions and realizations are made, or agreements are made, and I'm no longer angry. I mean, you give the body a chance to sort of calm down and get rid of all of the stress. And I don't hold grudges or things like that. The book is very hard for me to keep rehatching over and over and over. And I thought after the Rolling Stone, actually the first The first information given on what my life was like was from Kurt Loder and Rolling Stones. And so now I find that all of a sudden I'm having to talk about it again because the people don't understand. They can't understand. First of all, if you're not an American, there's no way for you to understand the way of Americans, without having to have studied or whatever. You can't relate to how stress is so suppressed in black people is why they fight or why they are sometimes as violent as they are. And with a lot of southern white people, all of that physical stuff is just inner frustration that's coming out as it comes out, physical, violent and physical. I've really grown in terms of thinking and how I think. So there's no blame anymore. But what the people are trying to put blame, all of a sudden they're going, well, Ike was this really horrible person. Not exactly. My attitude about it is that Ike, and I said to Ike that he had a mental problem, that he needed to work on himself. He needed to see someone, or he needed to talk more about some of the things, because it wasn't just me that he fought everyone. So there was a problem there. But now that the book has come out and people are really hearing everything, and they're believing that, Tina didn't just give a sob story thing, these are people that work for us. They came from other mouths. So now they're trying to get it to make sense to them. I can't. There's no way that I can actually get this to make sense to the people. And I'm a bit worried about how I'm going to handle that. I can't be rude to say I'm not going to talk about it because, you put a book out, you got to sort of explain a little bit, And I find that might become like a bit of a burden for me in a way.
Are you worried at all about Ike's reaction?
Oh, he's a part of the book. He knows. I told him in the course of our divorce when we would speak by phone, and I would sort of remind him of things he did, and he didn't remember. Of course he didn't remember because he's in that frame of, that state of mind. His body is in that state of like not remembering as well. Of course, and sometimes when you inflict the pain, you don't remember as well as the one that was actually received it as much, whether it was verbal or physical. Ike is also, he had his story in the book. He admitted in a way that, that's who he was. That's who he is. So it's a wonderful story. It's life. It's another way of life that has been written, really.
And do you think Kurt Loder's done a good job?
Kurt did a fantastic job. He almost lost me, Tina, in it, because he got really very wrapped up in music. You're going to find a music history. He incorporated my life with the history of the world, the war, in 1939 when I was born, and my family being involved with that world war, and actually how that affected me, the music and what the influence of the music was on this little girl that became Tina Turner. So it's very interesting, his approach. But he sort of forgot what the women want to hear about, how you did it, Tina. They want to know things, There are a lot of women that say, yeah, I experienced that. So they're the ones who want to know, how do you do it? How do you get out? Kurt totally forgot about that, So that was our only conflict, which is sometimes what I find is still missing in the book. Because even after I read the book, I felt, Roger, I'm not here. There's not enough of me. There's my history, but it's me now that I'm writing about. So I think one way or another, there's still quite a bit that will be written, or I might still get to cover it in a lot of my interviews like today or whatever. I don't know how I'll handle it, but there's just a bit left about the woman that I am.
Actually, you mentioned growing up in the 40s, and although we know the type of music you like today, we don't know what shaped you musically. What did?
Country and western and blues. There were people like Faye Adams,
Shake a hand.
Laverne Baker, Tweedledee Dee. I like Tweedledee Dee. I always liked the ones that wasn't too bluesy. They were just on this side of not being too serious. I never liked the Bessie Smiths and the Billie Holidays, and I just think they were much too serious again. You see, I'm not a depressing type of person that want. Well, again, I think you're getting to people that like drugs, maybe. Because it is known that Billie Holiday was addicted to drugs. I don't. I barely drink, and I don't do drugs. So I would be that person that would tend to want to get less serious, always sort of up, bright and jumping, and not being depressed about things and wanting to drink and smoke and talk about things. That's far removed from my personality, So it was country and western, and a lot of the up country and western stuff was like things that you may never expect a black woman to like, and some music that you'll find that I'm playing at my house when you come to a party. One of the ones that I can't sit down on is Mark Knopfler's The Walk of Life, and that's very country and western, very pop. But it's me. It's always been even the black music that I took in those days, it was always just a little bit on the other side of blues and depressing and jazz. I've never been a jazz person. I'm very not so self-indulgent, to get that far down,
Well, let's talk about someone who was not around when you were listening to Faye Adams and Laverne Baker, and indeed is genuinely of another generation. That's Bryan Adams.
No, he's really a boy. Bryan is so terrific. The first time I saw him, I had some kind of strange virus, when you get them and you get a fever and you feel, how am I going to go on stage tonight? And actually, when I landed in Canada, I went straight to the airport. And they had sort of given me something, I don't know what it was at the time before I became homeopathic, and I was really very drugged. Because whatever, I know, I don't know what you call it here, it was like the dry heaves. And I was exhausted afterwards. So they gave me something to stop it, but it also brought me down. So I had to perform with it. So he came to my dressing room and handed me a tape, and I didn't remember it that much. But I remember Roger saying, Bryan Adams, he came to your dressing room and gave you, okay. So he's very persistent, the little son of a gun. He's really a Dennis the Menace. I mean, he really and truly is a modern-day Dennis the Menace. Blonde and the whole thing. I mean, he's just little in the... So he came back, okay, because all of the songs he'd ever sent me still was not right. Now, Bryan liked Janis Joplin a lot. He likes Wailers, and that was what I did a lot of the earlier days. So, finally, we locked in. He says, again, he handed me a tape. He was standing in jeans, sneakers, a shirt down to his knees, and being just a boy. And it was called Love.
It's Only Love?
It's Only Love. And I heard it immediately, and I went, yeah, I'll take it. I love this. And I went in the studio, and he produced that one as well. And I gained a great amount of respect for him because he knew what he was doing in the studio, which I knew very little about Bryan at the time, so I felt, well, who's producing or whatever. I said, well, he's done most of the work, so you'll just put your voice on. But actually, he had produced it. That's why he knew exactly what he wanted even then. So I felt, wow, gosh, I sure like his music. Now, Roger, why don't we sort of take him out, with us? Because it's really true with the Rolling Stones, how they bring people to be guests of theirs, to really lift them and get them to want to go on stage, really. And that's what Bryan's music did for me. I was ready to go on stage when I listened to every inch. And he was one that I would listen to every song he did every night on stage, And even to have the energy to still come back with him at the end of my show and do a song that was really very high for me because I was singing very high. And then we knew that we wanted to work together again. So, he was, of course, gung-ho. Producing again. He's just... I cannot tell you how... Do you believe he's writing a book of his life now? And I said, you just started. That's Bryan, right? So he's always been like this. So even in high school, his author contacted me to ask to get some views on him. And so that's who he is. But he was very happy to produce. It's like somebody else other than himself now. He did terrifically well.
So the song is Back Where You Started.
Yeah.
And it's Begin side 2, so obviously a strong one.
It's a rocker. It's a kicker off. So what you get used to Terry is like to start off with, I say Terry is very commercial. And so when you feel like that, you can put that side on. But when you want to get a little bit rougher, you turn it over and immediately you just get kicked and kicked and kicked and kicked, And that's what I like, too. I like that you can turn my album over and go into another world. That's what I like.
There's another track on the album from someone with whom you have previously appeared on disc, and that's David Bowie. The song is Girls. Now, you've done a song of his on the last album, 1984, which is one of his, but this one he did write for you, didn't he?
David and I became friends about 7 years ago. A choreographer, Christ, why can't I think of her name? Tony Basil was choreographing a show for me. And she said, oh, you're going to Switzerland. She says, David will be thrilled. I'll let him know you're coming. And, of course, I was a fan. I was feeling like, oh, David Bowie's coming, it was like, covering Cat People and all of that. I hadn't covered Cat People yet. Right after I met him, he came, he got the show, and he was, of course, people were sort of clamoring all over him, but he handled it well. He's a wonderful person to talk to. To sit and the things that he knows. I said, how do you know so much? He says, it's wonderful what he said. He said, I never stopped studying. And that's sometimes what I tell kids today. If you don't go to school, just keep studying, keep reading. You can do it out of school, if you don't want to go to school. It can happen, if you happen to have dropped out. You can continue to educate yourself. And aside from that, we really got to know each other and became friends. So when I did 1984, following that, why I did it, because I still wanted to leap outside of being so soulful. And I liked it. I liked what I did with it. So then Cat People came out, and I went, that's what I want. So when I saw David again, I said, I want you to do a song for me, similar with that feeling. And he had come to the Ritz to catch the performance, and he actually saw me do it. So I didn't, to tell you the truth, I didn't think David was going to come up with anything, because sometimes the guys will say, okay, and they mean well, but they're involved with their own lives and they forget. So, we're always running into each other. And so after the HBO special was, he said, well, I'll be in touch. I'm going to really try to come up with something. So I had a few months off, the first of the year, and he rang me, and he was skiing, and he said, oh, I'm fit. I'm really feeling great. He says, I've written you a great song. It's a French song. He says, it's called Girls, and it's really very rough. And if you don't take it, I'm going to. And I went, hold on a second. That means you want it. That means it's right. Because sometimes when a producer writes a song for you, it's not exactly right because they're trying. But if they write it for themselves and they will sing it, then I'll take it. Because most of the time, all of these people that I cover, this was written for them, and I take it, and I want it. But when they try to write it for me, it's like, you don't understand. I can relate to what you relate to. That's what I want you to write about me, not about what you think, because what you think most times is wrong or what I don't want to sing. So that is what. But when I got Girls, I sat back and I said, David, you look at David's album, and you go, David, what are you talking about? Who is this person that's writing these songs? So I got Girls, and aside from not knowing what he was talking about, I started trying to analyze it. I said, Christ, he must have had some broken hearts, or girls must have been passing through his life, or, it must be one. And then I realized that he was talking about women. And again, here, I'm talking about women. I'm talking a lot of women songs here, like, again, what's love got to do with it? It's almost like a spirit came through and wrote through these people and wrote everything, because Girls just sort of finished the statement on that first side there. It says how we are. We break down and cry, and we do all of these things, but yeah, it's woman. And you just visualize every kind of woman. Actually, for video, I was telling Roger, I'd like a black cat and a black widow spider, and a really very slinky woman like Kiss of the Spider. That theme for this, because it's very woman, but yet something very optimistic and as well. But woman is very feline when you really think of her, in that sense. We have intuition, and we have all of these things going on in our heads a lot of times, We lock into other things much faster than men sometimes. So that's why I like Girls. It's very mysterious, and it's again, just what I became. Yeah, that was sort of describing it to you,
As someone who must record the songs written of other people, in a way you are always depending on the kindness of songwriters, shall we say.
Yes.
Has it shown you that some people can be generous?
Oh, certainly. I mean, didn't they all come out and become generous? Didn't they all make time for me? Weren't they all busy producing other songs and made time for Private Dancer? I found so much generosity in my last album, and even in this one, but having it so that they had more time. This time, last time, it really proved that musicians, rock musicians, and I'm speaking for us because we've been the musicians have sort of been put down and put into another world, are very generous. We proved it on Live Aid, but it was also proved for me in what they all came out to do as well. Good people.
Well, one of them is back this time. That's Rupert Hine, and he has supplied 2 songs this time, and one of them is used as a title track, Break Every Rule. Obviously, it must have a special appeal to you. I don't really announce a lot of my heartbreaks and the men in my life, because nothing was very lasting between my divorce and now. But all of these songs is touching upon all the men that I was involved with, and I can almost visualize now each man listening to this song and really going back to thinking what our relationship was like. And they all come back, and that's what this album is saying. Paradise is here. What you see is what you get, and the type of woman that I am, and the type of man that you have to be in order to be. It's all me. It's all Tina, this album again, and the woman that I am, and all the relationships that I have. Back Where You Started, that was Back Where You Started was, again, one of those that Brian wrote. But this one was Breaking Every Rule. Actually, it was called Slave in the beginning, and I didn't like that because I'd sort of been that already. I'm not that anymore. The disc has turned now, and I'm this independent woman. And this song is actually speaking about, I'll do anything for you, and I'll be your fool. I'm so in love with you. It's just a woman, and I'm that kind of woman. When I am in love, I am totally vulnerable.
And I don't take a man. It's almost as if I've known him another lifetime. I've known him before. It's honest and true love. I don't have shallow relationships. They're very much in depth. And I think it's a waste of time for me otherwise. And I think that's why I sort of just don't flaunt around with a lot of meaningless relationships. That is what that one is. It sort of speaks of the type of love that I give.
Well, why did you choose it as the title of the album?
Well, people come and say, I have to get your autograph. Women come and say, I have to get your autograph because my son is always trying to get me to go back to work or go back to playing my piano. And I say, no, I'm too old. And they say, well, Tina Turner did it. It seems that I've broken all the rules. I said it once years ago. I went into the Fairmont Hotel, and I went in with a rock and roll band wearing karate clothes with different color belts because I didn't have time to do wardrobe. And I took an old mini dress from a French designer, and I pulled my hair up in a punk style, and we had a standing ovation. And the reviews said, Tina Turner broke all the rules last night. She went into the Fairmont and pulled the cobwebs down from Nob Hill. I've been breaking the rules for the last 10 years. The older women say, thank you for allowing us to punk our hair up again and wear short dresses. I thought it was apropos for me. You look at that, you never think that I'm nearing 50. But I don't even care. What do I feel? Sometimes I feel like I can't even put an age on myself. That is breaking the rules, breaking the traditions, breaking old habits.
When you say you look at it, we're referring, of course, to the cover sleeve, and it's quite a quite a tease. Let's use that word.
Yes,
How's
it's
that?
a bit naughty. I
Yes.
think it's on the borderline of that.
Yes.
It's fun, though, to me. I don't see it as sexy, because, I'd like to say to you also that part of my act is that I watch sexy girls that's naturally sexy, I would say, and that's where I get my ideas for my performances. I like to play with that. I'm not that way in real life because I think it's fun what they're doing. To me, it's like being a fool. Not that they're being a fool, but it's some women's natural way. And I like to play with it, pouting the lips and playing with the pearls and just being almost like girls. You can pretend to be every girl that you've ever seen. When she walked in and you should hear us talk about our women. And she was, and I even love the she. We don't have a name almost. We're just she's. So that's who my stage person is. Just pretending to be all of the women.
Well, it must work. We have a 19-year-old redhead boy in our office, and when he knew that I was coming here to talk to you today, he said, oh, I'm jealous. She is my idea of a sexy woman.
Yeah, because, you see, it's not contrived. It's played with. It's fresh. It's new. When something is like, it's not, you don't get really offended by it? I make sure. And if you are offended by it, it's very small, because you can't stay quite that safe, anyway. You're going to make a few mistakes. But that's my attitude about it. I think I'm all of everything. I don't think I'm any one thing. I probably am. I never think of being sexy because this is not real life for me. This is stage and lights. So if you say, do you think you're sexy? If I sat here before you today and your people asked you, was I sexy? You'd have to say, well, not really, because you really got the real person here. But if you saw me a few minutes going to do a video, you would go, oh, my goodness, this person just transformed on me. And that's the actress in me.
Well, I wonder what you do say to people who are 19, because so many of the music journalists are young, and they're from a different generation. Do they ask you for any kind of advice?
Sometimes when I'm doing an interview, and it's basically a 19 or 20, 21-year-old girl or a boy, and certain things can't make sense to them about being patient and about really finding the proper manager or management in order to get you through, and there's a certain amount of discipline that you need in this work because there's so much competition there, and they can't seem to really sink into the communication. And sometimes I make them aware of the fact is that I am what I am because they're like first grade and I've graduated from college. I've had all the experience. You're looking at sort of like a timeless person. So if you listen, I can simply try to help you with what I've learned, but it's going to take you to get it, like in anything, So that's sort of my message to it. It's almost like what David Bowie said in an interview. You almost cannot write for young people. You got to let them be their own individual, but you can just sort of give them a guide of what you feel that can help. I think that's as close as you can get.
We mentioned Rupert Hine, and the other song of his, which is on Break Every Rule, is I'll Be Thunder. I'll be thunder, you'll be lightning, and we'll collide on dry land. Quite an epic, over 5 minutes.
That was the first one, and that was the one that I locked into because the writer, Jeanette, is very spiritual. Now, when I say spiritual, sometimes that word can scare people. Religious, God, going to church. No. Spiritual is touching upon the highest part within yourself, the psychological mind. And the psychological self, it's all within and coming from another place, so to speak. That's how she writes. She wrote It Might Have Been Queen, which touched upon another part of my life, another belief I had. That was the first year we met, which I didn't even talk about that. We just talked about reincarnation, etc. So this song, I think Jeanette wrote about another lifetime again, which is like, that is something that she's her expertise, so to speak. She's very good at that. And this is like trying to tell the people a lot of like what David says. He speaks about spirits, Dave Bowie. And sometimes when you can't get it to work here, if you're patient enough, it'll happen on another plane or another lifetime. It's just you have to get to learn that the life goes on. It is a circle within a circle, and you do go on and on.
Jamie West Oram of The Fix is on this, as he was on I Might Have Been Queen. Obviously, he's a favorite of Rupert's, who works with The Fix, but do you find that he does particularly well with this material, Waiting With You?
He worked with me live as well. And we did a video together on the Better Be Good to Me video, because he also worked on the earlier tracks that Rupert did. Rupert produced Better Be Good to Me. He didn't write it. Holly Knight wrote it. And Might Have Been Queen, all of the music was Jamie West Oram. Then I wanted him to tour with me because I needed a second guitarist, and I wasn't able to the one I had Palmer couldn't finish the tour. Yes, he's between the musics. His music is really quite different from rock and roll. You can't really put him in you can, but he'd have to really go there mentally. But he's caught between two different styles there. I think that's what Jamie's sort of thing is. Rupert puts him in all different areas when he's playing. If you listen closely to the guitar patterns and all he's playing a little bit of rock and roll here, a little bit of jazz there, a little bit of... So I think like he's one of those guitars that's really able to sort of be flexible.
We come now to the last one we are going to mention, and it's one that seems to surely apply, which is Overnight Sensation. Mark Knopfler. It says, well, I guess it's been a long time.
I wish we had the time to read those lines. That one, when I met Mark finally, we sort of passed in Canada. I was moving out and he was moving in. He was on his tour. It was the first time seeing him. And I was trying to really relate to, what he writes and how he writes, etc. And so I said, write a song for me. And I was absolutely sure, other than Private Dancer, I think maybe I might have been asking for another Private Dancer, maybe, or I don't really know. Then right after that, I got his Making Movies album and Brothers Arms, and I figured, forget it, write me anything, it'll be perfect. However, I didn't get that from Mark. He caught my performance, and he looked at me, which is like how he writes. He's almost a poet. He writes about, seeing your experiences, watching you right there, and the whole encompassing of that performance was, this girl has been out there a long time. She's been in the bar bands. She's been in the Badlands. And that whole time, she kept dreaming, and she kept having dreams. And it's something about Mother Nature passed me by. No, she'd never say, yeah, you're going to be an overnight sensation. It's really very Dylan-ish, again, with how he says things, Mark is wonderful with how he writes. And when I first got the song, I went, I don't know if I want to say this, because I don't like to be reminded in that context, because I sort of connected with Ike and how really bad it was, instead of saying, oh, well, that was my road. But this sort of helped me to see, well, that was the road that I had to get there. Some girls hop from band to band. I just had one that I sort of followed that road with. So then when I went in, and he put the music on it, there it was. And I said, okay, here it is. It's so much fun to sing about myself. That's the attitude I have about it.
I must ask one question about River Deep Mountain High, which of course is part of this long path. And in America, it's never been a hit. Everybody here knows that it was a smash here. It was never a hit for reasons, problems, Phil Spector, record company, radio stations, and so forth.
Music politics.
But what do you find the attitude is towards that song now in America when people ask you about it? Do they even know about it, or is it a kind of mythic thing? Do they wish it were re-released?
No, they don't wish it was re-released because I've been performing it live for them for a long, long time now. It might even be on some of my covers, and so it's been done now. I don't think the people need it after having to have performed it every year since then. The record still made it. It didn't make the way Phil wanted. Phil wanted all the trades. He wanted it to chart. He wanted reviews to be written, and most producers do. They're very proud of their work, and they want to really receive all of the recognition for it. But what I said earlier today, and I hope that he gets the message, Phil gets the message rather, is that the record did become a hit. I still made it a hit. Even though other people covered it, there was so much controversy about it that people did realize it, that Tina Turner did record it, that it didn't have a home. There was a lot of stink raised about it, so much stink raised about it that it was finally accepted. So it spoke of, it's very well received now finally in America. Didn't get the recognition that hit records get, but history. It's a part of the history.